Welcome! I'm back at long last with more about negative painting. I trace the drawing using graphite transfer paper, but sometimes those lines wash away when repeatedly stroked with water. So I also traced over the lines with a pencil. We'll start here, moving gradually from the closer petals back to the farther petals. But we will never, never, never fill shapes. Instead, think about lead edges. Find the lead edges and paint away from them. Diagram number 1. Take a look at this first lead edge and decide which side of the line is closer to you and which side is farther away. In my palette, I squeezed out versions of yellow, red, and blue. I put the colors roughly where they belong on a color wheel, and that really helps keep my head straight when mixing color. Now get a penny and put it on the closer side of the first lead edge. Wet away from the lead edge on the farther side. The penny keeps you from wetting the wrong side of the line. Isn't that brilliant? I forgot to mention that I've got 2 containers of water, one for clean water and one for rinsing out my brush. Obviously, I use the clean water for all my wetting steps. Sometimes I'm stuck working backhanded, but you should turn your paper to work comfortably. My wetting steps are all tidy, even though it's just clean water at this point. If you get jagged or messy, your painting will pay the price. Usually paint away about 2 inches or more from each lead edge. I don't need to mix up a lot of any color because I'll just keep changing colors as I go and remixing frequently. Don't you just love seeing the paint flow wet and wet? I'm pointing out a possible trouble spot, and I won't want this to be left to dry in another edge. I'm rinsing out my brush and loading it with clean water, then coming into the Kleenex so that I don't flood the painting with too much wetness off the brush. And I'm just tickling this area with a clean brush so I won't get that unintended edge. I'm adding more clean water out here just in case that paint decides it wants to move some more. I don't want it to hit dry paper. Just because I feel like it, I'm adding a little bit of red touched on into this area that's already violet. It's safe to do as long as that area has not started to dry too much. Put your penny on the closer side of the second lead edge and wet with clean water on the farther side of that edge. Feel free to overlap a little bit with your water onto the previously painted part. Go back for water as often as you need so you don't end up applying water in dry brush fashion. Keep applying water until you see that the area is uniformly shiny but not puddly. Now pick up some paint and start applying it in the middle of this lead edge. I start in the middle so that my flowing paint won't disperse too far too fast. I could have quit now, but I decided to go back and add a little more color. The paper is still wet enough that this is going to work. Moving on to the next lead edge, which side is closer and which is farther. I'm pointing to the new lead edge and then placing the penny on the closer side. Let the new paint flow freely to the left. Maybe you could see a little paint flow around the tip of this petal. Notice that none of the paint I put on has been applied in uniform width bands. Don't just paint a rim next to your lead edge that's, say, a 1/4 inch wide or a 1/2 inch wide. Give it plenty of variety. I'm also giving variety by painting this lead edge predominantly red and not really using the violet that I used before. Here's the next lead edge, and there's the penny. As I'm wetting the new lead edge, it's okay to turn the corner and wet again on a previously painted edge. But be gentle over existing paint so you don't start to lift it. Now I'm using some gold with my red. Looks like I'm getting a little unwanted edge drying up here, so I'm coming back in to tickle that area with clean water. In the next step, we'll look at edge 5 and edge 6 together and paint them all at once. There's 5 and there's 6. Again, there's a repetition on some previously painted edges. I'm being pretty bold with the value of my color. Sometimes I don't quite go so strong as this, but if you go too weak, your subject just won't show.